Before I let you go, because I know your food's ready somewhere. Tony Bellew, your former Sky colleague, somebody who works for DAZN now, spoke about the Fury Usyk fight, and he's saying now that he believes Usyk's going to beat him because he's quicker feet. Before he thought Fury would just outbox him. How do you see that one?
You know what, Tony's probably most qualified than all of us to make a comment on that. I personally think it's the other way around. I think Fury is going to be too big, too strong, and too unorthodox for Usyk. And Usyk's style, Fury's style, looks brilliant against orthodox fighters. And but against unorthodox fighters, that's where you'll see the cream rise to the top.
Cool, Johnny, I want to let you go and eat. I know your food's ready. Thank you very much for talking to ProBox.
Those are the words of Johnny Nelson, as he doesn't disqualify Tony Bellew's opinion, prediction on Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. In fact, he pretty much endorses it. Sure. He says, well, if anyone's qualified, it's Tony Bellew. Why? Because Tony Bellew fought Oleksandr Usyk. He's been in the ring with Oleksandr Usyk, and he knows what it's like to be outworked and outgunned. And Tony Bellew gave him all the respect in the world, you know. Now, you could say, okay, we got to play devil's advocate. You could say, well, Tony Bellew's just saying that because he was a victim of that. And a lot of times these guys that get beat, get knocked out, like the Luis Ortiz is saying that Wilder's the best or this, that, and the other, you know, and then, you know, he will side with that guy because that guy was the only guy that took him out or this, that, and the other. You know, they could turn into cheerleaders or jump on the bandwagon because of that. But, you know, sometimes people are just that wowed, just that impressed with the other guy's accomplishments and talent to the point where it's like, look, nobody can beat that guy, or that guy is something special because I know I'm one hell of a catch. So I know if that guy can catch me and take me out, I know that guy is special. You know, what really comes to mind in my boxing brain is the Irish Mickey Ward, legend, when he said the same thing about Zab Judah. He was like, look, I don't care what anybody else says. There's nobody better than that man. He's good. You know, he can float like water. He can hit hard, and he has these beautiful combinations, and nobody's better than that man. Shout out to Irish Mickey Ward. But, you know, that's just an example of how these fighters, they become intrigued with the guys that beat them, you know, that was able to defeat them. So I think that with Johnny Nelson looking at that from that angle, you know, from someone else's opinion, he can understand, like, yo, that's what it is, you know. But I will say this about what Johnny Nelson said. He said he thinks Tyson Fury's just too big and too strong. He didn't say he was too fast, okay? And he's good against orthodox fighters, but then Oleksandr Usyk is not he's not an orthodox fighter. Maybe that's what Johnny Nelson was going to say, trying to say or whatever, because I do mix my words up at times, a lot. But it is interesting to hear Tony Bellew's prediction, and it's another interesting thing to hear what Johnny Nelson had to say, because you would think, like, Johnny Nelson, you know, him and his overall outlook on Oleksandr Usyk, he's not really impressed. He's not a great southpaw, you know, so he doesn't look at him like that. He thinks that, hey, I would have been the one to take him out. But, you know, here you go. There's no way to prove that because Johnny Nelson fought in his era. And, of course, Oleksandr Usyk is fighting in his. So, you know, but there's not a huge amount of respect. I didn't say there was zero, but there's not a huge amount of respect for Oleksandr Usyk in the eyes of Johnny Nelson. This is why this is a surprise that he didn't shun or criticize or counterpunch Tony Bellew for his particular prediction and the change of prediction. Because remember, Tony Bellew was that guy that actually picked Tyson Fury to win just off size and, you know, talent alone and what he was able to do, but what he was able to do with the opponents that he fought. I have to leave that with you guys. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Johnny Nelson's statement on the prediction of Tony Bellew, of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.